Needless to say, this story wasn't covered by the mainstream media yesterday. A regular at Allen's snack bar attempted to murder a man in broad daylight in central London after seeing him burning a very old book full of desert fables. It's scary how many people on the left think this is justified because he shouldn't be offensive, and all the people just watching. Obviously, I can't show you the footage because this platform isn't any fun anymore, but you get the idea, and I will put a link in the description. The reason I'm bringing this up and that I want to talk about it is because a lot of people on the left of late have been saying, somehow pulling these fictional polls out, saying that lots of Trump voters have started to regret their vote for the Orange Oracle. This is, of course, complete nonsense. It's just the usual commie gibberish that we're sick of hearing from the last few years. And I can prove it. I think I can quite easily, because I'm going to juxtapose this, footage of a man who is protected by the authorities, despite the fact he wants to commit cold-blooded murder just because a guy doesn't like his book. Remember in the good old days when the left used to condemn violence for polite political disagreements? And that's what it is, no matter what you think about it, whether you think it's crass or not. Simply burning a book is a form of polite protest, and they used to think that was fine. Obviously not anymore, because if you're on the victim pyramid, you can't be at fault no matter how violent and murderous you are. Anyway, I'm waffling. Do you know why I'm talking about this? It's to show you just how far the United Kingdom has fallen, because yesterday this guy attempted to do cold-blooded murder in response to a polite political protest, and the UK media didn't talk about it, and none of our politicians even addressed the issue. Dare I say, they even covered it up. Conversely, here's what the White House, the official White House account, tweeted out today on Valentine's Day. From the official White House account: Happy Valentine's Day. Roses are red, violets are blue. Come here illegally and we'll deport you. I know a lot of British people used to look down on the Americans. They thought they were crass. They thought they were a little bit blunt. Let me tell you something. In 2025, blunt is what's needed. Because I'd rather have blunt tweets and blunt speech than what's going on in Europe now, which is unvetted fighting age men blunting the knives on little girls' skulls. Right, to the story at hand. The reason this guy's burning a book, if you don't know, was in response to the recent murder of another gentleman that burned a book over in Sweden. This story hasn't been covered very loudly by the Western media, again, because they don't want you to know about it. A man who sparked violent protests after burning a copy of the Book of Desert Scribblings has been shot dead in Sweden. Salwan Mamika was killed in an apartment in Södertälje, Stockholm on Wednesday evening. That's a little over a fortnight ago. Unrest broke out after Mr. Mamika set fire to a copy of a book outside Stockholm's giant Golden Bell End Church in 2023. Stockholm police said in a statement that 5 people had been arrested after a man in his 40s was shot dead overnight. Such a display of appalling savagery caused a man to do the same thing in Manchester, and again, the mainstream media in the UK was surprisingly quiet about it. He was arrested very shortly after by 2 smug, chirpy-looking, shall we say, not very pale or ginger British policemen, and he's pled guilty to racially or religiously aggravated intentional harassment or alarm in Manchester. So that poor fool is going to get jailed. You will note, by the way, that none of the grooming offences when tens, possibly hundreds of thousands of little girls were diddled, tortured and occasionally murdered by regulars at Allen's legendary snack bar, none of those crimes were ever racially aggravated. That's why they don't get sent to prison for a very long time. But time and again and again, we're seeing this all across the Western world because our leaders are enthralled to a toxic, cancerous ideology that insists no matter what the crime, even if it's murder or torture or surprise sex, if the person doing the crime is on their victim pyramid, they're not really a bad person. It's not their fault, you see, because the system made them do it. And fast forward to today, and then you get it again. A guy standing in solidarity with an innocent man who was murdered in the streets, with an innocent man who was arrested on trumped-up charges in Manchester, and once again, the response to a peaceful protest is running at them with a 10-inch knife and then getting treated with kid gloves by the authorities. Honestly, it's out of control at this point. I can't believe more people aren't outraged about it or talking about it. polite protest in Europe will now result in your murder if you're criticising the privileged group, and that is, yeah, the fellas who do that a lot, look at the sky, chant mumbo jumbo, and have a massive problem with seeing young women's ankles. This is how bad it's got. So to sum up, let me just say I'm very pro peaceful protest. I think more people should do it. I think absolutely nobody should ever be daft enough to plead guilty for taking part in a peaceful protest, and I think that more people need to be loud and angry about it. It really does blow my mind, the world we're living in, that BBC and Guardian and independent journalists aren't even slightly upset about innocent men getting killed for simply burning a book, to the point where they don't even want to talk about it, and they'll even defend the people that do the killing. They'll say, oh, well, you should have been a bit more polite. As I said, 2025 is a crazy year. Up is down, left is right. The Guardian is the warmongers' gazette. All of the left are now pro-arms manufacturer. And the cherry on top is that left-wing journalists think the real problem here is not innocent men getting killed in the streets for disagreeing politely. No, the real problem is offending people. Yeah, makes loads of sense. But that's all I've got time for today. I'll put some links in the description if you want to watch the footage for yourself and read about some of these appalling stories that nobody in the mainstream media wants to talk about. I'll be doing a live stream at 7 PM tomorrow, and I'll see you all then. All right, thanks for watching. Total Pip. Cheers.